to look at Bennington County, situated in the southwestern US state of Vermont. You could be forgiven for assuming it's just another picturesque New England locale, nestled alongside Glastenbury Mountain, which forms part of the Green Mountain National Forest. The 275-mile-long Long Trail, which runs through the length of Vermont, passes over the peak of Glastenbury Mountain, and is a mecca for hikers who come to marvel over the breathtaking landscape. It's a beautiful and slightly isolated region that incorporates the ghost town of Glastenbury, which in the 1800s was a thriving centre for logging and charcoal production, but at the last count now has a population of just 8. Yet, this serene region is home to a series of bizarre disappearances that occurred between 1945 and 1950, none of which have been solved or sufficiently explained. This led local author and paranormal enthusiast Joseph A. Citro to dub Bennington and surrounding towns, including Somerset, Shaftesbury and Woodford, as the Bennington Triangle. And here are 5 mysterious and so far unexplained disappearances that occurred in the area. Hit those lights, sit back and enjoy. MIDI Rivers. On November the 12th, 1945, MIDI Rivers, a 74-year-old local guide and hunter, vanished whilst escorting a party of 4 men back from a hunting expedition along the Long Trail. MIDI, who had been walking slightly ahead of the group, was reportedly last seen at approximately 4 p.m, heading towards an area called Hal Hollow Brook. Assuming that MIDI would be waiting for them by the time they reached their campsite, the men were slightly surprised to find no sign of him upon their return. Although initially they were unconcerned, knowing that MIDI possessed a sound knowledge of the terrain. But as time passed, they began to feel anxious and raised the alarm. A search party of 20 local firemen began to comb the area for signs of MIDI, but to no avail. The search expanded over the following days, with 200 US Army recruits drafted in to assist the worried local community in finding him. After 8 days of intense searching, there was still no indication of what could have happened to MIDI. Search parties continued to look for him for a month, but he was never found, and the only indication that he had ever been in the area came in the form of an unused rifle cartridge, which was discovered lying at the bottom of Hal Hollow Brook. Paula Weldon. Paula Weldon has the dubious honour of being the most high-profile missing person case to occur in the Bennington Triangle history. Paula, an 18-year-old student at Bennington College, went missing on December 1st, 1946. She had a part-time job working the lunch shift at the on-campus dining hall, and after her shift ended, she returned to a dormitory and announced to her friends of her intention to explore the nearby Long Trail. She asked if any of them wanted to accompany her, but unfortunately they were either all busy or had no desire to join her, so Paula decided to go on her own. She changed into her trainers and an eye-catching bright red coat with a fur collar, but she packed no extra clothes, nor did she take any money or food with her. So it appeared she only planned to be out for a couple of hours. Paula was observed by Danny Fager, a worker at a gas station located opposite the college entrance at 2:30 p.m. He claimed she sprinted up a small hill beside the college, only to walk back down again before heading down Route 67A towards Bennington. Paula then managed to hitch a lift with Louis Knapp, a local contractor who happened to be on his way home. He dropped her off along Route 9, approximately 2.5 miles away from Long Trail. Whether she hitched another lift or walked the rest of the way is not known, but Paula reached Bigfoot Hollow at 3:45 p.m, where she was given directions by Ernie Whitman, an employee for the local newspaper, the Bennington Banner. He reportedly warned her about not wearing enough warm clothing for being outside in winter, and so close to sunset, which would occur at 4:20 p.m. Paula reportedly encountered a group of young hikers on her way along the trail and asked them questions regarding the route. Then, after being observed at an area named Fay Folly Camp, she was never seen again. Paula's disappearance wasn't reported by her dorm mates that evening, as they had assumed she had returned to college and was studying in the library. However, when she failed to appear the next morning, her friends reported her missing to the head of college, and a large manhunt for Paula began. the college suspended classes, so all students were given the opportunity to help look for her, and they were joined by her father, Archibald, who was a well-renowned architect in his home state of Connecticut. He wielded his influence in order to get both the New York and Connecticut State Police to assist in searching for his daughter, which they were willing to do, especially given that Vermont had no state police force at this time. A $5,000 reward was posted for any information relating to Paula's disappearance, and the FBI were called in to help. 4 weeks after searching, both on foot and by air, Paula had still not been found. During the search, a waitress at a diner in Fall River, Massachusetts, had claimed to serve a rather agitated young lady that matched the description of Paula. After receiving this information, Archibald took it upon himself to investigate the lead, without telling the authorities involved, and he himself disappeared for a total of 36 hours. The police viewed his behaviour as somewhat suspicious, and local opinion began to favour the idea that Paula's father could himself be a suspect. This notion was reinforced by reports that Paula had at some point fallen out with Archibald, resulting in her decision to remain at Bennington College over Thanksgiving, rather than returning home. In turn, Paula's father proposed that she may have had a boyfriend that she planned on meeting, and insinuated that her unknown lover was at the heart of Paula's disappearance. Disappointed in the seeming lack of organisation and professionalism in the investigation. Indeed, there were no notes or records made for the first 10 days of the search. Paula's father left Bennington on December the 16th, never to find out what lay behind the mystery of his daughter's disappearance. Throughout the following decade, a local man reportedly proclaimed that he knew Paula was dead, and that he had knowledge of where her body was located. However, when escorted by police officers, he couldn't or didn't identify a site which contained any signs of human remains. And so, to this day, Paula's disappearance is a complete mystery. James Edward Tedford. Now this is a strange one. Exactly 3 years to the day after Paula went missing, on December the 1st, 1949, James Tedford, a World War II veteran, became the third person to vanish in the Bennington Triangle. James lived at a soldier's retirement home in Bennington and was returning there from visiting relatives in St. Albans. This was an arduous 8-hour bus journey for James, and as there had been snowfall, this meant the trip took even longer. There were around a dozen other passengers on the bus, and they all testified that James was on the vehicle for the whole duration of the journey, with some noting that they had seen him asleep in his seat at different stages throughout the trip. The passengers that remained on the bus until it reached Bennington claimed they recall seeing James in his seat at the last stop prior to reaching Bennington. However, when the bus reached its terminal point and the other passengers disembarked, James had somehow vanished. His personal effects remained on the luggage rack, and on the seat next to him was an open bus timetable. So with all his fellow travellers swearing that they had not seen him move from the bus, how had James managed to disappear in full view of them all in between two stop-off points? James Tedford was never seen or heard from again, becoming yet another mystery of the Bennington Triangle. Paul Jefferson. The fourth individual to vanish was 8-year-old Paul Jefferson on October the 12th, 1950. Paul's parents were farmers, and on the day he vanished, he was assisting his mother with her work on the farm. They had driven down to feed their livestock in a pickup truck, which Paul had remained in whilst his mother went about her business. When his mother returned to the vehicle, Paul was no longer sitting inside, nor could he be seen or heard playing anywhere nearby. Strangely enough, just like Paula, Paul was wearing a bright red coat, rendering him highly visible amidst the green landscape. But despite search parties involving police, volunteers and bloodhounds, Paul was never found. Legend has it that the dogs lost all trace of his scent at the same location that Paula Weldon was last seen along the long trail. To this day, locals consider it bad luck to wear red when walking the long trail. Freda Langer. The final disappearance to occur in the Bennington Triangle was on October the 28th, 1950, just 16 days after Paul Jefferson vanished. 53-year-old Freda Langer, an experienced hiker, was staying with her cousin, Albert Alsner, near Somerset Reservoir, which is located approximately 11 miles east of Glastenbury Mountain. During a hike with Herbert, Freda slipped and fell into a creek. She decided to return to the campsite to change into dry clothing, and asked Herbert to wait at their present location for her while she did so, and she would then rejoin him to resume their walk. When Freda failed to return, Herbert walked back to the campsite, only to find that she wasn't there, and that in fact nobody had seen her return to the campsite at all. Once again, a search party was formed, and they persevered in looking for Freda for 2 weeks, both by foot and by air. Sadly, Freda's body was eventually discovered, but not until the 12th of May 1951, not far from the campsite at Somerset Reservoir. Local authorities considered this strange, as the area adjacent to the reservoir was searched extensively at the time. Unfortunately, by the time Freda's body was recovered, the extent of the decomposition was so bad that no cause of death could be determined. The only comfort is that at least Freda's family were able to bury her, therefore giving them the small amount of closure that had been denied to the grieving families of the other 4 individuals that vanished in the area. Many theories still exist regarding the fate of the Bennington Five, including the possibility of a serial killer in the area. However, there has been other strange phenomena in the area over the years. Unexplained noises and lights have been reported in the triangle, together with UFO and Bigfoot sightings. According to local residents, the land around Bennington was considered cursed land by Native Americans, and they reportedly refused to enter this territory. So could any of these be the reasons behind the disappearances in the Bennington Triangle? Or is this just a sad case of unrelated random incidents? What do you think?